lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Beyond.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 356. I am one of your hosts, Greg Miller, all alongside He Only Does Everything, Colin Moriarty.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
You haven't shaved yet.
No.
We're letting it grow in a little bit, eh?
Don't touch.
I didn't. I got close to it. It's a game. How close can we get without doing it? Oh, yeah, this is why you watch the video version of... In the ever-rotating third chair, back from the dead, the one and only Dark Knight of News, Andrew GOLDFARB.
Hey,
you didn't shave either.
I didn't. You didn't touch mine.
I don't want to touch yours. I don't want to touch anybody.
My game's very different. It's please touch my face.
Anyone touch my face. GOLDFARB.
Hey.
It's been a long time since you were on the show.
Yeah, I know. I can't swear now. It's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the one who messes this up like 10 times.
I'll start the curse list in the back.
Oh, do you keep a timestamp?
Well, yeah. Then I got to go edit it out.
Yeah.
I'm
going to make your life real hard. Okay.
Please do. No, then the show just won't go up. It's a busy day. When was the last show? You're on E3? When we interviewed
I was on for the Shuhei one. My voice is all terrible and messed up. And
you were going through puberty.
Yeah, I was. It's a very exciting time in my life, actually.
Hair where there was no hair before.
It's actually, this beard just grew in that day.
What else has been going on? Still Gearbox?
Yeah, still at Gearbox. Traveling a bunch. I'm here all week visiting the lovely San Francisco. It's like 55 degrees cooler than it was in Texas when I left. And yeah, just doing Gearboxy stuff. Battleborn's announced, so I can finally put up blog posts and all the stuff I've been working on, which is kind of exciting.
Now that's the one that's the sequel to the Dark Souls.
Yes, exactly. This is the one that From Software is doing. Yeah.
Sorry, Bloodborne.
And then this is also the one that Bethesda's doing.
No, give them a rundown. Tell us about your game.
Battleborn is a 5-player campaign, kind of almost Borderlands style thing, but then there's also multiplayer modes. One of them is called Incursion, which is basically like a MOBA, and then there's kind of more traditional multiplayer modes too. There's a bunch coming in September, so pretty much right after PAX we'll have a bunch of actual gameplay. Because like the weird thing is like poor Lindy keeps doing all these interviews about how like funny the game is and stuff, but like there hasn't actually been gameplay footage out there. So
let me set up the scene for you, and I'll tell you how funny this is.
Yeah, it's coming. I promise. But yeah, that and then pre-sequel. I just got back from Gamescom doing pre-sequel stuff. Finally revealed Claptrap.
Oh.
Yeah.
How do you go over?
I think people are like, really? Because it's so weird. But we have fun with it. That game's just goofy and fun. And it's Borderlands.
Goofy and fun.
Yeah.
Like Podcast Beyond.
Like Podcast Beyond. That was the inspiration for the goofy and fun parts. They were like, we have to make it like as much like Podcast Beyond as possible.
Randy's like tearing up design docs. He's like, make it like Beyond.
Just pictures of you
Hire
on the board.
GOLDFARB. That's what we need. Ladies and gentlemen, Podcast Beyond is the internet's #1 PlayStation podcast. It posts every week on ign.com as an MP3 on Tuesdays, every week on ign.com, youtube.com/IGN, and the IGN PlayStation 4 app as a video on Wednesdays.
Is it actually going up consistently now?
Yes.
Wow.
We got it down to a science.
Wow.
Where I basically tell everyone to off.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you like that? And then actually edit the video and get it up in a process.
Yeah, Greg does it himself.
It only fails 9 out of
making more work for
12 times. Somebody's got to do it.
My favorite part is that you just write
the curse word,
yes, and then it just ends up being a list of curse words.
Then I know what I'm looking for.
Sure,
it helps me out
makes
in the
sense,
end when I'm in there with my earbuds jamming out.
Because you wouldn't notice it otherwise.
Speaking of which, we're supposed to shoot. I know there was a thread about this. Are we not shooting that video today?
I guess not, no.
Okay.
I haven't heard back from it, so I'm not worried about it.
No.
Yep.
What's up, everyone?
Our top 10 curse words.
Number 4, mittens. Let's begin the show with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news.
There are 7 items on the list.
A baker's dozen.
Yep, and it's a slow week because we're in kind of post-Gamescom now.
Yeah, slow burn.
Pre-TGS.
I was going to say Lucky Number 11, which would have been a really weird reference to make to that Josh Hartnett movie.
I remember that.
Man,
I talked to him at Comic-Con this year.
Not a pro. Did you?
Yeah, he was on the show.
That title bothers me. It always did.
Yeah. Well, I think his name was Slevin.
Yeah, but
it's just... Secret interview?
No, did I say? I said how was
I don't remember. It was only 5 seconds.
He was really interesting.
I'm very tired. I got back from Germany.
Here come the excuses.
A little while ago.
Did you have some beer?
I had a lot of beer.
Kolsch.
I had some sausages with breakfast. So I ordered the bread selection of bread in my hotel from room service, and it would just come with a bunch of sausage.
That's awesome,
man!
What a world of
they know how to eat in Germany.
The hotel we were in last year, that Marriott, has the best breakfast I've ever had. It's easy.
Oh, you stayed at that place again?
No, I stayed at the Radisson Blu.
Oh, that's where Sony usually is.
Yeah, they were there this year. I saw, like, it was actually really funny. I saw Shuhei and Adam Boyes and now John Drake and all these people, like, walking in, like, a perfect triangle and, like, their matching suits.
With,
like,
very slow motion and songs were playing?
Just, like, cool music playing.
Oh, they stay there, too. Because I was thinking they usually just have their I was referring more to like they just rent
The whole
out all
floor.
of the floor and then they just show off their games there.
Yeah,
that's why
where-
Gamescom's not stressful for me because I cover PlayStation and I just go to that hotel for 3 days and everyone else has to go to the show floor.
Yeah,
like a
which
bunch of
is hell on
chumps.
earth. Well, this year I was in the business center the whole time for Borderlands, which is really nice.
It's a nice shirt. That's what I was thinking.
Thanks.
It is a nice shirt.
It's-
It brings out the colors in your
It's
face.
got like is it new or is it old? Because it's got a texture.
It's got a little bit of both going on.
It's got a
doesn't it?
texture of it's like something that's been worn
yeah,
in.
no, it's
You should
new.
roll up the sleeves though. Let people see
I
your-
will, but
your
I'm
gums.
comfortable right now with the temperature, so I didn't want to.
I like the fact
usually
that we
I-
hang out enough that I know when you get new shirts.
I know it's a little
Because they're all just a little bit different.
Yeah.
They're all in the same vein,
Yeah.
collared shirt or
they're
something
all from
offensive to
Express.
another country.
Yeah.
Are you doing colored shirts every day now?
No, I mean so I went through my closet. This is an aside. Welcome to Podcast Beyond.
We just, I was going to say, we almost made it to number 1 on the road report. We went on about talking about pretzels and
It's all Josh
beer.
Hartnett's fault, man. Luck number 7.
This weekend, I finally went through my closet and like threw out a bunch of clothes.
Yeah.
and so I've whittled
You
it
threw
down.
out? Why didn't you-
Well, you donate.
Yeah, okay.
And I whittled it down to like 15 button downs, like 8 polo shirts, 6 or 7 pairs of jeans, a couple suits.
Wow.
Et cetera, and so on.
And
So
then thousands of
I have literally over 150 t-shirts probably
Yeah.
in my drawer.
Yeah.
And I got rid of like 4 or 5 of them. I wore one for you, one that I used to wear in
Yeah,
college.
yeah,
I have
yeah.
like this old Astros shirt from the 70s with like the old, the orange with the old logo that they used to wear in Houston, and it was like super tight on me even in college, and I put it on, and it's like just
He almost could get away with it.
It's
But
ridiculous.
it's one of those things where like the shirt's so tight on his belly button that you see like the gap
And,
spread
like
there.
you see the indent.
Yeah, exactly,
that's
exactly.
great. You see what he ate for lunch.
Number 1. For the 7th month in a row, as of July, PlayStation 4 was the best-selling console in the United States. This news comes on the back of word from Gamescom that PS4 has surpassed over 10 million PS4s sold to consumers, which makes it the fastest-selling console of all time to date. Indeed, if you combine PS3's first 9 months on the market with Xbox 360s, PS4 and Xbox One are outselling their predecessors by a combined 80%, which is huge.
That's
The Last
so
of Us.
crazy.
The Last of Us was the best-selling game in the U.S. in July. Other PlayStation and it's 2014, everyone. So that's pretty interesting. Other PlayStation software also charted in the top 10, including Minecraft on PS3 at number 2, FIFA 14 for PS4 and PS3 and Vita at number 3, Watch Dogs for PS4 and PS3 at 4, Call of Duty Ghosts for PS4 and PS3 at 6, Grand Theft Auto 5 for PS3 at 7, Sniper Elite 3 for PS4 and PS3 at 8, NBA 2K14 for PS3 and PS4 at 9, and Lego Marvel Superheroes for PS3, PS4, and Vita at number 10.
That Vita
PS4
version is the one that's really selling.
Yeah.
Definitely. PS4 software sales accounted for more than half of next-gen game sales for the month, and PS3 and PS4 hardware sales outstripped combined Xbox One and Xbox 360 hardware sales.
That's so crazy. 10 million is so high.
I know. Seems like, Borderlands the pre-sequel should probably come to that platform, right?
Oh,
Because I don't want to
but the install base is so big.
No, I don't want to turn it back on and plug it back in.
Just some interesting notes. So 10 million plus PS4s puts it ahead of Vita. It also puts it in the realm of Dreamcast. We're just and Saturn. So we're like I think
those
it
are the
passed
names
Saturn.
you want associated with
well,
your sales.
I think it
PlayStation
passed,
4, the new Dreamcast and or
I
Saturn.
think it passed Saturn and is on its way to getting to Dreamcast numbers, and it did that in 9 months.
I was going to say less than a year. That's so crazy. I mean, I don't think we expected half of that by now. I think, not that I ever bought into the console gaming is dead thing or whatever, but man, like, that number, people should really understand how high that number is, keeping in mind that, like, for the lifetime, for the whatever 7 years, 8 years that the other ones were on the market, it was what, 70, 80 million, I think, respectively. So, like, 10 million is a huge, I mean, obviously the momentum slows down eventually, but that is a huge start. That is gigantic for the first year.
What's interesting is that it's slowed down, but it hasn't slowed down a lot yet. And it's been doing this with people complaining with PS4 that it has no games. So imagine when, which is something I disagree with, but imagine when Uncharted comes out, or Bloodborne, or
God of War eventually. Or
right, exactly.
something, yeah.
Like when
Gran
people,
Turismo, like whatever it is, like those things that actually move units. Yeah,
exactly. I think it bodes well for the future of PlayStation.
and it's only had one Christmas.
Yep.
I mean, and it was right.
and
at
it
launch.
was supply constrained.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's everything's looking good, Greg.
Yeah, it's exciting right now to finally be using my PlayStation 4, I feel, on a daily basis. You know what I mean? I think Rogue Legacy was the first one where I was like, all right, now I'm playing this, and this game I'm hooked on. I can't stop
Dude,
playing
the
it.
crossplay is so easy in it.
Right,
It's like the most
exactly.
convenient.
That's what
why
it was.
doesn't every game do it that way?
I think
now-
a lot of them are now doing it that way.
And now Diablo, and then
so
Minecraft.
the answer is they are. Yeah, Minecraft will be big.
I can finally start pushing the PS3 away.
Yeah.
Don't do it yet.
I know.
Persona.
I know. I just
Persona
say it's got-
5, Borderlands pre-sequel,
I'm not-
Assassin's Creed
don't throw
Rogue.
it-
I'm not
Don't
putting
throw-
it in the shredder, everybody.
Don't throw your PS3 out, Greg.
Did you
I've seen
try to
that
throw
video.
Assassin's Creed in there?
Assassin's Creed Rogue.
I'm not going back for Assassin's Creed Rogue.
Oh.
Sorry.
It's kind of a brilliant move, though, isn't it? Because people that are really into Assassin's Creed lore that have both consoles will play both games.
Exactly.
So it is kind of
Dude,
brilliant
Rogue-
that it's not just a down-resed version of.
Some people have written in about this, but I have yet to meet a person in the flesh who cares about the Assassin's Creed lore.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, people
At this
be
point, it's
tweeting
just
me
like,
all the time
at
about
this
that.
point, it's just like, whatever. Can I just go do stuff and unlock
Rich
stuff?
George.
Great. Yeah, okay.
Stone Chin.
Yeah, I was going to say Stone is the next one, right?
no.
I think, look, like, I don't know exactly what Black Flag did, but it did quite well. So,
yeah,
I mean,
no,
there are
the
enough
games
people.
are great. I love playing the games, don't get me wrong.
I mean, the overall lore about, like, the planets exploding, all the crazy shit, maybe not.
Yeah.
But as far as, like, the story of the Kenways and stuff like that, like, the basic level, like, the shallowest level of the lore, I think there are people who care. Especially because they said this, like, concludes the Kenway saga.
Yeah,
and ties in.
they keep shoving that down our throats. But seriously, spoilers for Assassin's Creed, whatever. Like when I was as Ezio and I get in there and it's like, oh yeah, these people are space gods that came, and I watched the videos
Yeah.
of Adam and Eve running, and they have the piece of Eden, and it's like, what? And then
That's what it
and he
lost
goes,
me.
Desmond? And who's Desmond? What is happening? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, that's cool. And then I played all the rest after that and never beat them, never bothered to get to the end and feel like what happened.
Assassin's Creed 3 is when my brain just broke. The ending of that game, I was like, I am too stupid to understand what is happening in this game.
I couldn't even get to the end of that game. I just started screaming at my TV and then never played it again.
You didn't make it out of the theater when you're crawling up
Oh,
people's
like, that was
heads.
the worst, wasn't it? No one sees this man climbing
on their heads.
It's like ridiculous. But since we're on the topic of Assassin's Creed, I want to bring up something real quick. Assassin's Creed was one of those series that for a long time I said I didn't like, and I don't like those games, right?
But you kept getting platinums in anyway.
Well, so this was the point, actually. So I played, I think back in the day, like a little bit of AC. I didn't like it. And then AC2 I played, and I was like, I don't like this game at all, right? And people gave me, a lot of crap for that because they, were like, you didn't see enough of it, you didn't play enough of it. I'm going somewhere with this. It's very essential.
I'm excited. I know exactly where. I bet I can predict where you're going. Can I write it in a sealed envelope?
So what I ended up doing with Assassin's Creed 2 before 3 came out was I actually went and played it again, and I still hated it. But I platinumed it just to prove that there's no way I could have possibly seen or done more in this game. I don't like it, but here's my platinum trophy, so you can't ever say that I didn't play it enough.
Give it a shot.
And as a side note, that's a testament to how much you love American history because you were so excited for AC3 just based on its setting and like the dumb videos we were doing that like you were like, okay, now I'm going to go back to AC2, which I absolutely hated, and you complained about it the whole time.
Yeah, I hated every minute of it. And I played like Prototype 2 right after it, so it was just a really bad time in my life.
Darn point.
But so Greg and I went to Sony last week and we played Bloodborne. And I really like Bloodborne. And I think it's got like that kind of little tinge of speed that I've wanted in Dark Souls and Demon Souls. It's got a little bit of arcadiness to it. It's not Ninja Gaiden or God of War, but it's just a step in that direction. It's still very much Dark Souls or Demon
It's also
Souls.
set in a village.
It's set in a village.
It's a setting
The M.
I
Night Shyamalan movie?
care more about.
Right.
I'm already more excited about
Right.
it than I was the Souls.
Because you thought it was the M. Night Shyamalan.
So
No, God damn it.
So I did, so when I saw Bloodborne at E3 with Miyazaki, I wrote about how like I'm a Dark Souls kind of naysayer, and this game is kind of making me a believer. And then when I went hands on with it, I'm like, I actually really like this game. I can understand it. I feel I'm bad at it. Everyone at Sony was laughing at me when I was playing it. And so what I've decided to do, I'm off tomorrow and I'm off next Wednesday because I have some comp time. I'm going to play Dark Souls, and I wanted everyone to. I played Dark Souls for a few hours when it came out, and I didn't like it. There was
not
this one
Demon Souls, Dark Souls.
Not Demon Souls, Dark Souls, right? I'll play Demon Souls maybe, but a lot of people suggest I go to Dark Souls, so I'm gonna
Dark Souls 1.
Right, Dark Souls 1.
Okay. Not Dark Souls 2. Or
Not
Demon
Dark Souls again, no,
Okay.
and not the Dark Souls 2 DLC.
Okay, and not Soul
but
Sacrifice.
Not Soul Sacrifice.
Okay.
No, but not Soul Sacrifice Delta.
Okay. I think I'm clear.
But
Are we talking about Dark Sector?
yeah. So I just want to let everyone out there know that I'm going to do, keep an open mind about Dark Souls and go back to it, because what a lot of people are telling me, and have been telling me for a long time, whether it's Casey Lynch, whether it's some other of our friends, readers, etc., and so on, people at Sony, people from
Newshound, Jim Riley.
Jim Riley, is that this
Brian
game
Albert.
is right up my alley, and a lot of people are actually frustrated that I don't like it. Like, it actually bothers them, and that maybe I just didn't give it enough time. So I'm going to sit on the couch tomorrow and play through, as much of Dark, not very much of it, but for a few hours of Dark Souls tomorrow, and then the following Wednesday, and kind of get more into it, and I'll report back. Keep an open mind about it. But the last time this happened, when I did it with Assassin's Creed 2, it didn't turn out very well. But I hope it turns out better this time.
You want to be proven wrong.
I do want to be proven wrong, because this is actually a game. It's like an albatross for me. Like, it's just like a noose around my neck all the time.
I'm going to say, if you like Rogue Legacy, and if you end up liking Dark Souls, there's a nice happy medium called Spelunky that you might also enjoy. You got that loop.
He already
that
said
loop of
Spelunky
death.
sucks. We all agree Spelunky sucks. Rogue Legacy came out and showed you how
When
to
it comes
be a
to PS4,
Spelunky.
it
A
really
better
is.
Spelunky.
Rogue Legacy is incredible.
Colin,
Yes.
you bring up the fact that this angered a lot of people. You anger a lot of people on this show. Frustrate a lot of people on this show because they love you so much.
Oh, well.
People like Matt. Matt from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Matt writes in and says, "Hello, Greg, Colin, in the ever-rotating third chair. Beyond?
Beyond.
It seems every week. You don't say Beyond anymore?
Oh, I'll say Beyond. Well, it wasn't addressed directly.
Is that how we raised
Beyond.
you? Is that how we raised you? You're no son of mine.
I'm just going to yell pre-order Borderlands the pre-sequel every time.
It seems every week we hear about just how much Colin hates playing games with other people. I'm sure it's been discussed, but I guess I've just missed the explanation of why. With Destiny looming, my co-op fire is burning bright. Even the thought of cranking up the last-gen console for Borderlands pre-sequel has me excited because I love co-op gaming so much. It's a tugboat. Playing games by myself has its perks, but playing games alongside my friends is just the best. I completely understand that everyone is entitled to prefer his or her gaming styles, but I just wanted to know if there was more to it. Did Colin have a bad online experience? I know that I've had plenty of online multiplayer sessions that ended abruptly because of horrible comments being made in the lobby before the game even started. I get it. For that reason alone, I usually classify co-op play entirely different beast than multiplayer. Why don't you like playing with your friends? He understands.
Something happened.
I would love if this is like a really dark story.
Yeah,
It's single tier.
nothing happened at all. It goes back to when I was, a kid even. What you play Contra or something like that, right, with other people, or you'd even do like you hand the controller back and forth like you would have to do or like take turns like in Mario or whatever. I just never enjoyed that. I don't play games to like bond with other people. I don't want to play games with other people. I don't want to go at their pace. I want to go at my pace. Sometimes that's quicker. Sometimes that's slower. I've had good experiences online. I think The Last of Us is a great example of a game where I had a lot of great experiences. Things people say bother me? No, because they just mute everyone when I go into online games. I don't talk to anyone. Like I mute. That's the first thing I do when I go into games. I just mute everyone. Everyone's muted. It's done. So that's never like a thing. So it's just not what gets me excited about playing games. That's kind of where I stand on that. I understand that some people are different. Destiny doesn't speak to me at all. I have no interest in Destiny whatsoever, and I won't be playing it, I'm sure. But that's why I was so eager for that Ubisoft game, The Division, to have single player, because I think that game looks awesome. I think Destiny looks fine, but I don't think Destiny looks like a game-changing kind of thing. I think, The Division looks friggin' rad, and sounds rad, and so I was desperate to be able to play it by myself, and I think you can. So that's just me. It's the same thing with Borderlands. When I played Borderlands and Borderlands 2, I played it by myself. When I play Soul Sacrifice, I play it by myself. When I play these games that might be designed for other people, I play it by myself. That's just the way it is.
I think it's also important to understand that it's not like just games. Like, you just like being alone in general.
Yes, I do.
Like, I mean, this also applies to drinking and everything else. Like, I think you...
Yeah, I like to drink alone. Yeah.
Not that you're an alcoholic, but no, I think in general, it's like you have friends and you see them when you want to, but there's certain things you like to do alone.
Sure, the thing about co-op gaming for me is I like it when it's easy and it's fun and you're all doing it on the same page, but when you get off page, like I'm playing Diablo with Christine, right, and we're having a great time, and I don't mind it when for when you're playing local couch co-op Diablo, you hit and go into your inventory, everything stops for both players, obviously, whereas online you could keep playing. But like I was like the other day, I'm like, are you into the story? Can we listen to a podcast? It's like, no, I'm enjoying the story. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what I mean? Like, there's that just difference. Like when you're by yourself,
the story of Diablo.
Yeah, when you're there's that story there. It's because it's all the same thing. Usually it turns me off, this fantasy of these the hell and the angels and the demons have come to Earth in this, of course, old school land where nobody's got a cell phone. Stupid
I love the idea of
fantasy.
Steimer like in tears, being so moved by this story, and I was like, what?
And you're trying to listen to This American Life.
Yeah, exactly, in one ear.
But that's the thing, right? Like, Last of Us is a great example of a game that I don't think would work co-op, because I want to go explore the environments and go to every nook and cranny and not feel like
I hope
I'm holding
Fallout
somebody back.
never has co-op, because that's the kind of game I'm slow.
I'm so scared of it. That's what I'm scared of. See, I don't want people to get the impression that this needs to be in every game.
But I think you're going to see fewer. My guess would be you'll see fewer single player games, because it's going to be that kind of The Division and Titanfall and all these things where it's like connected, and like even Watch Dogs, which is a single player game, like you're always connected to other players and they can invade your game and all that stuff. Like I think because more and more people have online, and because the online capabilities and sharing and all that stuff are growing, I would imagine you'll see fewer like core single player Fallout 3 style experiences.
Yeah, and that's a shame. And I want to say real quick, I think you're right that it's just who I am. My dad visited a few weeks ago. We were talking about it. My dad really, I'm very much my father's son, and he likes to be alone too. Like I know when he visits, like it's funny because he's the same way I am when I visit people, where he like he'll stay at a hotel and he'll hang out with you during the day. He's not in any rush to like get in touch with you. And when he gets up in the morning, we have lunch, dinner, hang out. And he's like, all right, I'm going. Like he needs like to be, he wants to go read or hang out by himself. Yeah, exactly. And I like that too. So like gaming is my me time. If I can synthesize the me time with the gaming, that's great. Mm-hmm. The last thing I want to do when I play a video game is play it with another person. And it's not to say that there's like games that I haven't enjoyed with other people. We played All-Stars a lot when it came out. Back in the day, I used to love GoldenEye and Smash and Street Fighter and stuff like that. But those days are kind of behind me. Like I don't want to play games with other people. So, more power to you if you do. Number 2.
Was there more of that question? Or was that
No, that was it. You nailed it. This is how the show works. Sorry, you're too busy
I'm sorry,
selling
I'm
out
new
to
here.
even remember anymore.
In a conversation with Eurogamer, Sony Shuhei Yoshida, friend of Podcast Beyond, remarked that he wasn't aware of the exclusivity deal Microsoft had signed with Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics to secure Rise of the Tomb Raider for Xbox One and Xbox 360. While word has since leaked that Rise of the Tomb Raider is likely a timed exclusive for Xbox consoles and will come to other platforms later, I think. We don't really know that yet. Yoshida admitted that he, quote, hopes the game will come eventually to PS4, end quote, but notes that it's not up to him and that he has no further information. So I thought it was interesting that they didn't really even know. He said maybe his third-party team knew, but they never told him.
So the quote I really liked in there was he was like, if you look at how many PS4s are out there and you think about it, like the amount of sales they're losing by not being in PS4 surely must have been made up for by something else, which obviously is the case. Like you would imagine that if it's really never going to come to PlayStation platforms, if this is going to be like console exclusive and it'll come to PC and Xbox or whatever, like that is the amount Microsoft would have to make up in potential lost sales for Square is huge. So I can't imagine it never. I think you'll see like whatever the definitive edition.
Game of the year, definitive edition.
I would imagine that'll be on PlayStation, if not earlier. I can even see it being as early as Q1 2016, and Microsoft just gets that holiday window because Christmas is huge. And like as of right now, like I think Microsoft is very carefully setting itself up for this holiday season where they have a FIFA bundle in Europe, a Madden bundle in the US, they have a Sunset Overdrive bundle, like. All of that stuff is time for fall. They want this fall to be like the fall where, you know, they kind of catch up on install-based stuff while Sony has put a lot of stuff into Q1. You know, the order isn't coming this fall. There's still Drive Club, but like a lot of stuff will be early next year for them. Yeah. So I think like it's smart for Microsoft to position itself for, hey, let's have a big holiday, and maybe they're beginning to set the same thing for next year. So I can even see it being a 3-month window just to get that Christmas shot. But
sure, there's a few interesting notes that I didn't think about. Some people have been talking about this, and it's interesting. Number one, this deal, if Tomb Raider comes out fall of 2015, benefits Microsoft and Square in the way that it would go up against Uncharted on PS4 and get slaughtered. So, like they would come out the same month probably, and no one's going to buy Tomb Raider like on PS4 at that point. So it actually makes more sense maybe for Sony too to say like, okay, bring it out next year. Uncharted will have already sold millions of copies by that point. And people will want their fill of action adventure again, so they'll go buy Tomb Raider a year later on PS3 or PS4. Mm-hmm. So that kind of makes sense. Like that, in a backwards way, ironically benefits Sony, I think, because it gets Tomb Raider out of the way of Uncharted. And Microsoft has admitted in interviews that, you know, they don't have an Uncharted and they want an Uncharted, and Tomb Raider is their best bet for that right now, I guess. And that they, you know, there's some interesting interviews with Phil Spencer about. You know, how they've tried, and you know they want Uncharted. They admit like Uncharted is a game we don't have. We don't have a game of that caliber. You know,
I love how candid he is. By the way, like his interviews are awesome.
It is. It is refreshing. He's a great lead for Xbox, and I think is going to bring Xbox back. Not that they've been very down. But the one thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, is, you know, and I know our friend Jim Sterling has talked about this a little bit, and some other people, is just the word exclusive and what that means. And I kind of feel like, you know, I feel like Microsoft has really bastardized that word with Tomb Raider. I don't really feel like Sony and Nintendo do that. We don't want to get frustrated about exclusive DLC and exclusive day one content or extra whatever. That's totally fine, but I do think that those two companies speak plainly about what is exclusive and what isn't. And I think you can go back and watch Gamescom, then the press conference when Jim Ryan was on stage and he was like, these 8 games are coming first to PlayStation. Like, it was very clear, like, they're not exclusive to PlayStation for 6 months, blah, blah, blah. Like, they don't use that kind of terminology because it confuses gamers. And that kind of stuff frustrates me because when they were like Tomb Raider exclusively on Xbox in 2015, it's like, come on, guys. You know,
the
like
wording was
like no, it's not. You know, it's exclusive on your consoles for that holiday season. So maybe literally what you're saying is true, but you know people aren't going to interpret like that. And why do you put yourself in that kind of position?
I think
Nintendo wouldn't say like, you know, we know when Nintendo has an exclusive, it's an exclusive, and Sony studios make exclusives. You know, so we don't have to worry about that kind of terminology.
I think they're obfuscating it on purpose. Like, I think they want people to associate that brand with Xbox, for better or worse. And I think, I mean, you see it now with Destiny, right? Like, most people are talking about Destiny as a PS4 game, even though it's going to be on not only Xbox One, but also Xbox 360. Like, and I think they want that. They want it to be like, oh, when I think Call of Duty, I think Xbox, because the DLC has been exclusive for 1,000 years. I'm sure they're setting up Tomb Raider in that same way. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think at this point, like, it's one thing to say console exclusive or whatever, or to say first, and like to make it very clear what you're talking about. I think it is unfortunately misleading, but also don't forget that like these events, these press releases or press conferences or whatever aren't really just for the gamers. They're also for investors and stuff. And I think they want to feel comfortable that like this thing is coming to our platform, or at least giving the impression of coming to our platform first, and it'll do really well, and it's a known brand and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I can see the reasoning behind it, and I'm sure like Microsoft especially, like they haven't announced a figure. Sony just announced 10 million sold through. The last we got from Microsoft was 5 million sold in. Like, I mean, that's, that makes it look like it's 2-1, even if that gap has closed a little bit. But man, they need to make it sound like they have stuff coming.
Make waves.
Sure. Yeah, I understand why they do it, but that's exactly what it is. They do it so. Like they want, like everyone's like, oh man, I wonder if they regret doing this. And they don't regret it at all, because like it got everybody talking about Tomb Raider. Sure. It got everyone talking about Tomb Raider with a big Xbox logo in their blog roll image or whatever. Like I think they've done exactly what they wanted to do. And yes, they maybe had to backtrack a little and explain afterwards, but like truthfully, I think they are probably pretty happy with how this was received. And no matter how much people complain, like millions of people are going to buy this in Xbox One in holiday 2015 before it's on anything else. So
for sure. And a lot of people have been tweeting at us and asking us even in comments and stuff like, well, this game won't be an exclusive, or this PlayStation game won't be an exclusive, or this Xbox game won't be an exclusive. There's always a way to figure this out, right? Like, here's a rule of thumb for Sony, for PlayStation. We know this because we've covered PlayStation for a long time. If one of Sony's first-party studios developed it, it's never going anywhere else. And if a second or third-party studio developed it, and when you see it, a trailer for it, it says published by Sony Computer Entertainment, it's never going anywhere else. Yep. If you don't see anything else like that in a trailer, then it's likely a timed exclusive or not exclusive at all. So when people are curious about the Tomorrow Children, or whatever that game is called, like that's an exclusive. Q Games is not owned by Sony, but Sony's publishing that game. The same thing with Bloodborne. Bloodborne is not coming to any other console. Sony is publishing and paying for that game, even though they're not making it.
So you can hold out hope for PC one day, and for like Pixel Junk.
Right.
Those games all started limping.
Right. Exactly. Like that's about as much as we've seen, and that must come with the blessing from Sony.
Sure. I mean, PC is kind of Switzerland. I feel like most people are comfortable. They're like, okay, we'll put this on PC. Like that doesn't hurt us because it's not like they don't see it as a direct competitor. I think, and also for the devs, it's probably not as bad to port it to a PC when you're not constrained.
You're talking about PC. You're already talking about the fact that Steam integrates with PSN. Now Battle.net integrates with PSN. Yeah. I
mean, I think for people who don't, I remember when Mass Effect Trilogy was announced, people didn't understand why it was such a big deal, and I think it's such a big deal because Mass Effect 1 was technically published, I believe, by Microsoft Game Studios.
Yeah, and the deal lapsed.
For that one, like that's one of the few examples I can think of where it was an exception to that rule. But yeah, like for anyone who's ever thought like, oh man, like I remember Neil Druckmann put up some joking image NeoGAF had made as his like Twitter banner,
background,
and it had like someone holding I think it had Bruce holding a copy of The Last of Us on Xbox One, and he got a bunch of tweets that were like, oh man, The Last of Us on Xbox One, that's dumb. And it's like, dude, Naughty Dog is owned by Sony. Like, guarantee that will never, ever, ever happen.
No, never.
I understand that a lot of people don't want to get that deep into understanding how the studio system works and stuff, but it is good to educate yourself on that if you are interested in having this discussion about exclusives, because obviously that's a pretty good rule of thumb.
Yeah, and it's just about IP ownership, basically. So, one of the interesting things Sony does now is with PubFund, and they've been doing this for a while, is Sony's actually loosened up so much that they'll pay for your game and with PubFund. So like they did this with Drinkbox with Guacamelee. They actually like paid for that game, and once the money's made back and they're paid back, and like there are some rules, they probably make a little bit on the side or whatever, that game can go anywhere. So like Sony actually paid for a game that was then ported to Xbox One.
And Wii U.
And the same thing's happening with Axiom Verge, which is a game we're really excited about, which is coming to PS4 and Vita first, PC later, and then could conceivably come anywhere else. I think the PubFund thing is basically a way for them to facilitate smaller games without owning IP, because you hear stories all the time, more nightmarish stories earlier in PS3's life cycle about them trying to control IP from smaller developers, and that's why they didn't get games like Limbo early, because of their arcane rules. Yeah, there's all these rules. Just pay attention. I mean, Uncharted never coming to Xbox. But will Tomb Raider come to PlayStation? Probably. I don't know.
I really think it will. I mean, I was wrong about Titanfall, though obviously I guess sequel will. But I really did expect Titanfall to eventually get announced for PS4 later. I guess it probably won't at this point. But I don't know. I think Tomb Raider, maybe I'll be wrong again, but I would be very surprised if we don't see it a year later or something.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, like, a year later, has Microsoft won anyway? Like at that point, is it even relevant enough that it would make a difference if it suddenly came to PS4? I guess it depends on how
it's an optics issue.
But, yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think they want that. They just want it to be, whether it's true or not, to be associated with their platform. So
this is a good jumping off point for a question from Lars. He wrote into Beyond at ign.com and
Lars
said Beyond.
Beyond.
No.
Okay. Lars Ulrich. He's like, is someone using my brand? Remember they went after that antique store that named a couch Metallica and they like sued them?
They're the worst.
What are you doing?
Hey, Greg, Colin, and the ever-rotating third chair. I was wondering why we need video game publishers. Half the time, they seem to get in the way of creativity in games and seem to only care about money. And with the rise of indie developers and small studios, one of the major grievances I've often seen listed is the ownership of IP and the right to self-publish. So why do we need publishers?
Money.
Right.
Money. I mean, yeah, like, so for people who don't understand, like, so Gearbox owns Borderlands. Like, we own our IPs. We own all of our IPs. But 2K publishes that game, and what that means is not necessarily just that they, have spend marketing money on it or whatever. It's also that there's an investment into the product itself early on. So I mean, they're technically allowing you to complete the game, and then in return for that investment, it's they put it forward and they get to share the money and blah blah blah.
Publishers allow you to take risks. You're talking
Exactly.
about, Lars is talking about small indie games, right? That are a little bit different. You can kickstart them. You get your money. You can go.
The answer is that now people kind of don't for those smaller indie games, right? I think that's why right now is so exciting, because there are people who, if you can get the money, whether through Kickstarter or traditional means, like you don't need a publisher anymore. You can throw it right on Steam.
I'm saying that the fact that the publishers exist to fund a multi-million-dollar game that you wouldn't be able to get a loan for or a Kickstarter for or whatever. You need somebody there saying, we believe in the product, here's this money, now when it gets sold, we get our cut, and this is how it works. It's the business model to make something that's a little bit bigger maybe than your studio can personally get out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think the answer is that it is kind of, at this point, it's not antiquated, but I mean, it is a more traditional model that I think people are, just like in film. I mean, Hollywood's the same way right now, that distribution used to be that you could not get anywhere unless you had a studio behind you and had a distributor. But I think now that's not the case, because people can release something straight to YouTube or via Kickstarter. There's a short that's nominated for an Oscar, or I think it was last year, got nominated for an Oscar that was Kickstarted, which is kind of cool. And so I think now in all around that model is kind of going away.
Yeah, I agree.
And just real quick, he talks about how publishers only care about money. Certainly, they do care about money. They're a business. Don't fool yourself into thinking that developers don't care about money. If there's a developer out there that's telling you that they don't care that they get paid, or they don't care about their bonuses they get when their games are coming out and the games do well, they're lying. This is a business for them too. Now,
it's their job.
Yeah, are they artists? Are they fine programmers? All this kind of thing, of course. But let's not sanctify the developer over the publisher necessarily when everyone's in it for the money, because it's their job.
And also, most publishers, like if you're looking at Take-Two, if you're looking at Activision, if you're looking at EA, they're publicly traded companies. So yes, they care about the money, but that's because they have this gigantic pool of people who put money in and get money back and all that stuff. There are many, many, many slices of that pie. So I think with publishers, yes, they only care about the money, but that's also because they have so many masters that they have to pay all that back. And also, don't forget that, you can call it greed or whatever, but if they don't make money, then they're not going to keep being able, look at THQ, right? That is a publisher who's no longer around because the money wasn't there. So, I mean, yes, they only care about money, and sure, maybe to some individuals that could be about, hey, I just really want a bunch of money so I can buy a pool or whatever. But I think it's more about keeping the business alive and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what drives the artist, right? The art, obviously, what drives us to write. We like to write, but would I be able to write in a vacuum without being paid by my employer? No, of course not. And do I want to make money on what I do, to be able to fuse the love of doing something with being able to live my life? Yes, and that. So let's not developers aren't just making games for giggles, and we have to kind of walk away from that. They are entitled and have a right to make a living off of their game. Whether or not the market agrees is another thing entirely. But everyone's in it for the money in business. That is what business is. Number 3. Here's an interesting fact, Greg.
Finally.
About the upcoming PS4 game No Man's Sky.
Oh, yeah.
It will take over 1 billion years to see the entire game.
I'm going to do it. I hope there's a plan.
Hello, welcome to episode 4000 of IGN's Let's Play of No Man's Sky.
Word comes from Hello Games co-founder Sean Murray, who told IGN that there are so many planets in the game that it would be literally impossible to see them all. Indeed, the procedurally generated universe used to be smaller. It was developed using a 32-bit number, which would take gamers 4,000 or 5,000 years if they were to spend a single second on every planet. But that number was up to a 64-bit number, meaning that you're never going to see all of No Man's Sky. So I thought that was kind of an interesting stat.
That's really cool. That sounds awesome that you will come in and we'll both play the game, or all three of us will play the game, and we'll come in and have different experiences, and we won't know about that planet you went to or whatever.
I think that's why that game is so ambitious and exciting, because, man, that's really cool. Now, do we know if it's persistent in that if I discover a planet, can I put a flag down and then you discover that planet later and see my flag?
I don't think we know that, do we?
No, I don't know much about
it. Cool. I don't know if it's online.
I'm not super interested in it right now. A lot of people are really losing their minds over it. I need more information.
You got too much going on.
Did you not play Joe Danger, Colin?
Huh?
Did you not play Joe Danger?
I did play. Actually, I played Joe Danger for 1 second. Not a racing
game. Now,
game.
Imagine doing that.
Not a racing game.
I heard that if you play Joe Danger for 1 second every year, you would still never see the end of it before the sun burns out.
It's probably true. Number 4, eagerly awaited PS Vita exclusive Freedom Wars from Sony's Japan studio finally has a Western release date. IGN can confirm that Freedom Wars will launch in North America on Tuesday, October 28th, and will be available both digitally and at retail for $29.99. It will launch in Europe digitally on Wednesday, October 29th, and at retail on Friday, October 31st. There are pre-order bonuses available for PSN and participating retailers if you're interested. I'm going to have much more on that game soon. Very excited about it.
You like it?
It did extremely well. I like it a lot, and it did extremely well in Japan. And here's just the thing real quick. A lot of people are talking about, like, we don't get any more big Vita AAA games. This is a AAA game, and it might not be up your alley, but it's and so you probably don't want to play it if it's not up your alley. But
Real quick, we always do this. Sorry.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, what is Freedom Wars for somebody who's listening at home, driving their bus full of nuns at
Right,
home?
right.
I don't know what that means. They're literally insane.
Freedom Wars is a game that was developed from Japan Studio along with 2 Japanese developers called Dimps and Shift. And it's a Monster Hunter-like game, but it's got guns and swords and verticality. It's very action-oriented. It's very fast. Yeah, you grapple like on monsters, like pull yourself up to them and kill them, kind of like Shadow of the Colossus, but not nearly that grand. And the cool thing, I think, is the story. So Earth is overpopulated in this game, and everyone lives in these city-states called panopticons. And basically everything's so overpopulated and there's no supplies, so like the most minor of grievances will get you thrown in prison for like exorbitant amounts of time.
Nice.
Isn't it like a million years?
Yeah, and you get like
million-year
sentences and stuff like that. And so the idea is that you have a million-year sentence in the game. I don't know how you end up there. I'm sure you find out. And the idea is to work for the government to lower your jail time to 0 so you can get out. So all of the
Like
missions,
the Suicide
so
Squad.
all of the missions you do lower your time by 10, 15, 20, 30, 100 years
Gotcha.
at a time, and then you get out. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, yeah, it's not BioShock. We want BioShock. It's not, another Uncharted, but this is a AAA game from a first party studio, like Killzone or Tearaway. So it's a game worth paying attention to, because we have a lot of indie games and smaller games on Vita, but if Freedom Wars ends up good and it ends up selling well, and people like it and it resonates with people, then what's to say that we won't get more of them? I guess what I'm saying is the proof's going to be in the pudding with how these games perform. This game sold really well in Japan.
That timing is perfect. That's I think the day I'm going to get in a plane to PAX Australia, which is Dallas to Sydney is the longest commercial flight in the world. So
Really?
or longest nonstop commercial.
How
flight.
long
Yeah,
is
it's horrifying. I
Like
heard
20 hours or something.
No, it's longer than that, I think.
Probably longer. Yeah. That sounds so terrible. I just did like the 11.
But you got
hour
Freedom
Germany.
Wars.
Well, no, I will.
Your
Freedom
Vita
Wars.
will last you 4 hours and you can play it.
Oh man, I was the flight I had back from we connected through London and came to Dallas. It had like outlets and stuff, like USB
Yeah,
outlets, and like I watched Captain America 2. I watched Amazing Spider-Man.
Cool.
But you missed this.
Josh writes into beyond@ign.com just like you can. It says Beyond.
Beyond.
With the recent announcement of Freedom Wars having a release date in October, I started wondering, why didn't they announce this on the stage at Gamescom? Seems like a missed opportunity. Is Sony now actively avoiding marketing the Vita? Will we see any marketing push for Freedom Wars, or is it doomed to fade into obscurity? Thanks and beyond.
Yeah, it's a great question. I thought for sure Freedom Wars would be on the stage, because that is a big game for them.
I mean, that feels like a really good TGS thing. That doesn't help with the Western release date,
But it's
obviously.
out already in Japan. So it's like
weird. Never mind.
So it's a terrible TGS thing, actually.
And heads up, everybody.
and this is why I'm not head of marketing at Sony.
So let me read number 5, and we'll get to that question because it answers it.
It's all linked together.
Number 5, in response to wide complaints on the internet of a lack of love for Vita at Sony's Gamescom press conference, Shoni Shahid Ahmad, who's a friend of Podcast Beyond, whose job it is to secure games for Vita and other PlayStation platforms, tweeted out a number of games in the pipe for the handheld, including Papers, Please, Tales of Hearts R, Velocity 2X, Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number, Broforce Volume, and more.
Minecraft. You did that
Minecraft. He also promises that many more games are in the pipe. In a separate interview, Shuhei Yoshida made note of something he told us at E3, that Sony doesn't want the press conferences to go too long, and that Vita fans are so dedicated that Sony expects that they'll find the news they seek without having to tell the wider public. To me, that's, and that's just a paraphrase. That's not his exact wording, but that's basically what he said, and he told us that at E3. That's the wrong move for Vita. Vita will be doomed to the niche and eventually to fail if they don't give it more time. I don't really understand what they're thinking with PS Vita. And Freedom Wars, he's absolutely right, was a perfect game to have something on Gamescom's stage for. Not only the release date announcement, not only a token thing, but gameplay. And like show people the game and tell them why it's important, tell them why they want to play it. They aren't doing right by Vita. period.
Well, I mean,
And-
for what they want, apparently it's okay. We can. Oh, is it the marker that hit me?
Yeah.
Not your luscious fingers.
No, stop touching me like that. I don't like it. I like it a little too
I
much.
like the reverse
You like
turnaround
that?
touch.
That's what I think.
You got some moves.
I use them all. I'm
Christine's a
Colin.
lucky lady.
No, I think what we're talking about, right, is you're saying they're not doing right by the Vita. They're not. But in their mind, they are. It's their system, right? They're doing right by the battle plan they have laid out.
Which is what? Ignore it?
Yeah, that you and I
Pretend
are
it
gonna,
doesn't exist.
you and I are gonna fall for the same trap every week and tell people to buy it in Minecraft and Persona. So what do they care? Because the hardcore are buying it, and the hardcore are making it at least profitable enough that that's what they want out of it.
Plus, if they really do have a finite amount of time on stage and they can spend 6 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it is talking about Freedom Wars, which realistically, right, like let's say that game even does $1 million, that would be huge for them. Or a PS4 game that's probably going to do $5 million and be at a higher MSRP and make them more money. Like, I mean, just from like pure numbers standpoint, it's probably smarter to focus on the PS4 game. I love the Vita. Like, I agree with you.
Do you?
But I'm just saying. Oh, I do.
No, I don't agree that it probably makes financial sense to focus on PS4, especially because there's all these complaints that PS4 has no games, which we know isn't true. Same complaint as Vita, which we know isn't true. I just wonder how they expect this to get any better. You know, and I think that their expectation is that they think it's not going to get better, so they shouldn't even try. But I say, try. You know, like
I think
like
their
you have to
expectations
try.
is
Like
it's good enough, and they're fine with it. And we're going to get to the list of games that came out this week. There's a whole bunch of stuff. We talk about everything that he was talking about on Twitter of these games coming out. There's a lot of good stuff coming.
Yeah,
out.
but you can make it better. Optically, you can make it better even, and you can convince people. It's not our job to, you know. I'm glad that people, you know, take our advice and buy games that we like or that we recommend or hardware or whatever. Ultimately, that's not what we're here to do, and so like you can't rely on, you know, people's, you know, just token kind of, oh, I like the Vita kind of thing to sell Vitas. It's like you got to prove to people in a more commercial sense, like why they need to buy the handheld because it's your product, and I. You know, the crappy thing about Vita is that it's in a death spiral that Sony is helping to. It is
7-year tailspin.
Thank you. You knew exactly where my mind jumped to, because that was going to be my example too. Of like, they're like, you know, why don't they give it a chance? That they tried hard with PSP and it never worked that way.
PSP sold 80 million units.
Exactly, based on people like us who are like, this is great, man. I love Rock Band Unplugged. I love Patapon. Like,
no, I don't think that's fair, because PSP had super early sales that were heavy because they had lots of games on it,
and then they had the 7-year tailspin of this thing has no games. It has so many games. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The install base was much higher earlier when PSP was still relevant. You know, like PSP was really big in North America for a couple of years. You know, like, and we all remember that. I was in college when that happened, and we had Grand Theft Auto and all these kinds of games. Death Jr.
No one.
Maverick Hunter X.
That was the one that turned everything around.
I don't know. It's just frustrating to me because I feel like, you know, someone made a recommendation. I don't know where I read it. Like, Sony should just start doing Nintendo Direct style things for Vita.
For Vita,
so, that's a great idea.
So I think it's two separate points, right? The are they giving up on Vita? Do they need to do stuff for Vita? Yes. I mean, they need to do more in general. And then the separate point of, oh, like the Vita sells itself, the people who want Vita stuff will seek it out, I think is bad. Because, I mean, there's a reason like Coca-Cola still advertises every year. Like, if you think about the millions of dollars Coke probably spends in advertising every year, when if they just didn't, if they were like, we're just not going to advertise this year, like the amount of money they would lose in sold Cokes would probably still be less than the amount of money they would save in advertising. But they advertise because it's about keeping it out there and brand awareness, and if you wait long enough, something surpasses it, and blah, blah, blah. I think with Vita, like, at a certain point, if they just literally stop talking about it because they figure the audience will self-regulate, no, it won't, and the audience will slowly shrink. And yeah, I mean, they need to get word out there, but I think that's the answer. I think dedicated events and time to focus and explain what the Vita is in a separate event makes a lot more sense than, sure, they could have shown Freedom Wars for a few minutes in that press conference in between two gorgeous 60 frames per second 1080p games. Like, is that really the best place to show that? I don't think so. I think it probably would have been overshadowed by bigger stuff. I mean, that's the E3 press conference thing in general people always talk about, is like, if you're on stage for your 3 minutes and you're sandwiched in between Call of Duty and Destiny, like, guess which game people aren't talking about afterwards? It's your little 3 minute. So I think there is a need to talk about Vita. I agree with that, but I think a place like Gamescom is probably not it. Unless they have like a dedicated 30-minute block, which they obviously didn't have this year.
Based on everything we're talking about, Mark writes in and says, hey guys, huge fan of the podcast and a big fan of my Vita. Question. with all the talk recently of Vita's future, what do you think the chances are that Sony will try another handheld, and what do you think it would be like? I think the chances are slim and none you ever see another Sony handheld. And I'm not talking about another Vita redesign. I mean Vita 2, PSP 2, whatever.
No time anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, I think Vita right now is still part of the PS4 platform. Like, whether that's yet another separate conversation of, like, the remote play stuff is working great. You know, like, I have no complaints about just how remote play functions, and they just released a second model less than a year ago. So, yeah, I don't think you see even a new model of Vita for quite a while, let alone a whole new handheld. I think you're talking, if it happens, you're talking 5 years minimum.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I said it before on the show. I'm of two minds. Like, the most obvious thing is to say, like, there's no chance. They're done, like, with handhelds. The other thing is that, like, I think they're crazy enough to make another Vita. You know? Like, I think that they're crazy enough to be like, nope, like, we're making another Vita. You know? It's more powerful and blah, 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 and it'll play your old games, and it has 2 triggers on each side and all this kind of stuff. Like, I can see, like, there's a portion of my mind that's like, I can see them doing that, and I feel like it could be an R&D right now. You know, like, because they want to double down.
Well, they definitely have another handheld being worked on in R&D right now, guaranteed. Will it ever see the light of day? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they're prototyping.
I mean, that's how this works, right?
I mean,
to
like,
even
PS4,
have it out.
Think about it as PS4 is selling probably twice as fast as they ever expected to. Like, if they can get a machine out during the PS4's lifespan that can play PS4 games natively, like, yeah, I mean, they would want to do that.
Yeah. It's
but I mean, like,
I think
that device
can't
can't be $900 though. Like, I mean, that's the problem, is like getting it down to the same problem Sony has had pretty much every time it's launched a system other than PS4, which is like launching it at way too high of a price point and the proprietary memory and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they can't. If they really do another handheld, like, they have to learn so much from this launch. Like, surely they would understand, like, what goes into it and what'll get people to buy it. I think, like you always say, like, you know, sell the hardware at a loss, make it up in software.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you have to do, and they're already making a profit on PS4. So I just think Sony is bold enough to do it. Like, I think that they're actually, like, one of the companies that they would do it.
Well, I mean, and if PS4 continues to sell this well throughout this whole generation, they'll have theoretically the money to take a risk too. So,
but there's no need to do that right now. Just focus on making Vita better. It's sick and in bed right now. Number 6. Sony Computer Entertainment Japan's president and CEO, Hiroshi Kawano, is retiring from Sony effective August 31st. Kawano joined Sony in 1985 and was the head of SCEJ for the launches of Vita and PS4. Let's see. Atsushi Morita will succeed Kawano effective September 1st and is currently serving as Sony's Vice President of Administration and Control. Maybe I'll get to meet him when I go to Japan in a few weeks.
Not if you keep talking this trash on the Vita.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm not talking that trash on Vita. I'm just telling it like it is.
You just called it was sick and in bed.
It is sick and in bed.
They have a plan for it, Colin. It doesn't match with your plan.
I was at Studio Japan last year, and I'm convinced that there's a room full of beds with Vitas in it connected to IVs.
Little thermometer sticking out. The little, like, old school hat.
Number 7.
Oh, wait, before you move on, I think that's actually really interesting because Sony as a whole, like, looking at SCEA and SCEJ, like, it's kind of a new guard right now. It's pretty crazy. I mean, if you look at how many people in major positions, because, I mean, Kaz is now head of everything, so it's not like he's really focused on the gaming side. Trenton's gone. Like, it's just really interesting that Sony next year compared to Sony even 3 years ago, it's so different.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it is a little weird. Still kind of getting over Jack.
Shuhei's never going anywhere.
Yeah, of course not.
The day Shuhei leaves Sony, it's the day I weep on this pod. The podcast, it will just be Colin and I crying at the table.
I think his, as a promotional stunt, when they finally let you change your PSN name, Shuhei should change his last name to PlayStation, thus confirming he will never leave the country.
Jeez, he's dedicated. PlayStation son.
Number 7. And finally, some game announcements. Kickstarted adventure game Dreamfall Chapter is coming to PlayStation 4 this November.
Where's Knob Switch?
Knob Switch is on.
Dreamfall Adventures and Knob Switch.
Up.
The sequel to Cube.
When the Vita gets out of bed, it comes with Knob Switch.
The sequel to Cube Squared is coming to PS4. Zen Pinball's The Walking Dead Pinball is coming to PS4, PS3, and Vita on August 26th and can be accessed via Zen Pinball 2. RPG Rune Master will be coming to PlayStation 4 in 2015. And Q Games and Double Eleven's Nom Nom Galaxy, a continuation of the Pixel Junk series, will come to PS4 and Vita at an undetermined time. That's it.
All those games sound great, but they're not out yet. Andrew Goldfarb, if I wanted to know what came to stores this week, the mom and grop shops, where would I go?
That would be the official Leah B. Jackson memorial list of upcoming PlayStation software on all 3 platforms by the IGN editor.
True. Number PS3. That's not a number.
Number PS3.
PS3. CounterSpy's out. It's available digitally. We'll have more on that very soon because we interviewed them.
God, it feels like that. I can't believe that game is just now out. I feel like we were seeing that game like a year and a half ago.
We just saw it a long time ago. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls is available digitally and at retail. Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare is available digitally and retail. Tales of Exillia 2 is available digital and retail, and I reviewed that on IGN and gave it an 8.
You got to pay off debt and stuff, I hear.
Yep, you do.
Sounds like a Tom Nook nightmare.
On PlayStation 4, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare is available digitally and at retail. This is a really random one. Rygar, the old arcade game, which I loved on NES, even though it wasn't really quite a faithful port, is available digitally. I can't wait. I'm playing that tonight. CounterSpy is available digitally. Kung Fu Rabbit, which I think is already on Vita, is available digitally. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls is available digitally and at retail. I actually think Kung Fu Rabbit's a PS3 game. Sorry, that's on the wrong list. Hotline Miami, the original one, is available digitally on PS4 as of today. And I think it's cross-play and cross-buy, so if you already bought it on Vita and PS3, I think you might already have it for free. Not positive about that. And The Last Tinker, City of Colors, is available digitally. On Vita, Counter-Spy is available. What?
The Last Tinker, that looks incredible. It's like a 3D platformer. I'm all over that game.
It looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to review it. On Vita. Counter-Spy is available digitally. Crimson Land is available digitally. I already reviewed that on PS4.
What'd you give it?
Like a 7 maybe? Something like that.
Same thing you gave Counter-Spy.
Yep. Gravity Badgers is available digitally.
Awesome name.
Nice. Good. I like
And
it.
A game I'm really excited about, Sword Art Online, Hollow Fragments, available digitally. This is an RPG that was on Vita in Japan, did very well over there, has a huge community. I think a lot of people actually imported it to play here, like the kind of the hardcore Western Vita community. So I have my code. I don't think I'm going to review it, but I will be playing it, and we'll send it out to a freelancer.
And
That's
what
it.
is that? The Last Tinker, City of Color, it's called?
Yep. City
Greg,
of Colors.
Remind me to download that.
I'm on it.
Thanks, buddy.
Everybody tweet at Garfep and let him know.
Please do.
Download Last Tinker,
Yeah,
City of Colors.
I like 3D platformers a lot, and they're not around enough. I'm going to tell Marty about that one. He wrote a thing about it. He was like, hey, I like this game. I wish it was a different game called 3D. It was Splatoon. It was that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He wrote a piece. It was like, I really like Splatoon, but I wish it was a 3D platformer. Which made me laugh.
And you're like, here it is.
Yep.
As Colin just told you, ladies and gentlemen, Diablo 3, Reaper of Souls, Ultimate Evil Edition is out. I've been playing my balls off with it.
You did
so
stream.
Good. Yeah, I've been streaming like crazy over on my Twitch channel.
Streaming
Having
your
a great
balls
time
off.
with it. No, I didn't. No, I think they kick you off if you stream your balls off on the thing.
I don't know. I've seen Shuhei tweet some pretty interesting PS4 screenshots.
That's true as well. It's great. Nobody else here has played it, right? Have you played any of it?
Diablo. I played Reaper. So I was at Gamescom last year when it got revealed and we saw
Yeah.
a little bit of it,
Yeah.
and then I was at BlizzCon last year and we played tiny bit.
All right, good. It's good. It's
But not on PS4.
I played it on PC for a little bit, and then I played a lot of it on PS3 leading into E3 when I was just looking to grind, listen to my podcasts. There, the muddled visuals, not as much happening. In PS4, it looks way more like the PC. Tons of stuff happening. They put in a whole bunch of cool multiplayer stuff. Not that you have to play with other people, but like even just like if you're playing on your friends list, we can share GIFs.
And you can. Isn't there that whole thing where like you kill if a monster kills you,
Right.
it'll show up in somebody else's
Nemesis
game.
system.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Steimer and I have been playing nonstop together, and no one else has the game yet, so there's not like my friends list is populated. So last night I went and played on my own for the stream, and as soon as I started, a Nemesis monster that had killed her popped up in my game and just beat the shit out of me and killed me. There's a curse too. 52.
I'm gonna take it down
deserved
for
it.
you.
I did.
Yeah, you
Oh,
did
yeah.
kinda
I mean, I
also,
deserve
why is your
everything.
finger so dry? Touch your finger. It's like
I don't moisturize enough.
sandpaper.
I don't moisturize
Yeah,
enough.
it's like
it's like a
sandpaper.
cat's tongue.
Do you want to?
Well, my hope is that I'll just have Spider-Man like powers if I keep it up. We have two Diablo things here. First off is
Why
from
would
Dan.
dry skin give you Spider-Man like powers?
Because then I'd be able to stick to things like cat's tongue and sandpapers.
Dry.
Dan from the UK writes in. It says Beyond.
Beyond.
I, for one, have been waiting for Diablo 3 to be hitting my PlayStation 4 for a long time, but my question is this. Looking on the store on my phone, I see the Ultimate Evil Edition in the coming news section on PS3 costs €29.99, but the PS4 costs €59.99. Sorry for not converting it. I'll never understand your over-the-pond money. Why the almost double price jump? It's just because the PlayStation 4 is new and hot, and this is what people think they can charge. It's just the same game, right? Yeah. To my knowledge, it's just the same game, and that's the whole point, that they want it to be... Oh, Colin's getting ready to curse.
Nope.
No? Oh, yeah, that's the whole point is that, it's a little bit more expensive because they know that, PlayStation 4 is the hotness right now. People want to get to it. They want to go buy it. Colin, do you have anything else to jump in on this?
No.
Yeah, I know. Calm down, mother. Jesus.
Now you're
All
upset.
up in my f***ing grill about it.
Am I really all up in your f***ing grill about it, Greg?
No, you just think I don't know how to drive this show? Drive this...
We've forgotten
the
many
SSS
times in
Moriarty?
the past years.
I
Many
know.
times.
Oh, I missed this.
The old married couple fighting over here. Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that PlayStation 4 is... I mean, I'm sure it looks better for sure. That's the big thing about it. I mean...
It's just the new...
It runs better
also,
than...
if I'm not mistaken, those like online things are PS4
are they?
only. I think.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't work at Blizzard.
I'm not too worried about it. I mean, why would you even play it on PS3? Just upgrade already.
Yeah.
Get it going.
Keep that PS3 around.
I'm
though,
sure, but
for,
I'm sure
Persona
there's-
5 and Borderlands Pre-Sequel and Assassin's Creed Rogue.
And Tales of
already.
Hysteria.
Yeah,
rid of
Tales
it.
of Hysteria. Yeah.
So I mean, to my knowledge, it's just the fact that PlayStation 4 is the hotness, and it runs better, and it might have additional features that you should be playing, and those are the features they've been talking about nonstop.
Yep.
If you have both, do it. You can upload your PS3 or 360 save to Battle.net and then download it to
That's pretty
PlayStation
damn
4
cool.
or your Xbox One. It's
that.
platform agnostic, which is nice.
I think it's really cool how many people. Wasn't there something else? Oh, next gen GTA. They said you can take your GTA Online save from any platform. And,
Right.
Man, that's
I wish you
cool.
could take your real save, though.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I know I'm asking for too much.
It would be so cool if those walls eventually got broken down. I mean, I know they won't, but
Break the walls down.
Shuhei Yoshida, tear down this wall. I was just watching a Reagan documentary yesterday.
Oh, how was that?
It's good. It's part 1 of 3.
oh, nice.
Let us know how it wraps up.
I'm reading a biography of Joss Whedon right now. And for some reason, it keeps making me think of you because it's been so long since I've read a biography. And I'm like, Colin likes biographies.
And Joss Whedon and Ronald Reagan are good friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They work together.
Yeah.
He ghost wrote his speeches when he was like 1 year old.
Jason writes in to be hit of the week, and I said sure because he wants some friends. He says, "Greetings, Greg, Colin, and the occupant of the perpetual motion chair. Hit of the week request. I really want to enjoy some of the social features of Ultimate Evil Edition without actually having to play the game or talk to anyone. So my PSN name is Risen Devil. RISNDEVIL. Hit me up, Beyond Jason. Everyone, go friend Jason. Send him a message that says Beyond. Let him know you love him and that you want to trade gifts with him and send him gold.
Gifts? Like animated gifts?
Well, no. Gifts like when you're playing Diablo, you'll kill a monster
gift.
and you'll collect things. And then it'll say, like, this is a gift for Jason. And then it would just send it off. You send it off, Jason! And it would show up in his mail. And it's great. Outside of Diablo,
PSN
Colin,
hit confirmed.
Thank you. Oh, rest in peace, Clements, wherever we hid your body. You reviewed CounterSpy.
I did.
It's out this week. Tell me a little bit about it.
CounterSpy is a side-scrolling espionage game that takes place in the Cold War. It can be beaten in like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
It takes a page out of the Metroidvania book of design, but the maps are not huge. They're like 10 minutes each, and they're procedurally generated.
And it looks like Archer. It's got that cool like.
Yeah, it's got like a beautiful art design. The art director is an OG guy from Pixar, and the guys who made the game are from LucasArts and Rockstar. So it's the studio's got a good pedigree. I gave it a 7. I think the game is immaculate looking. I think the gunplay could use some work. I think that the AI is super inconsistent, which is a major problem in a lot of stealth games.
Sure.
You know, I would love to hear more about this game. Is there some kind of any other information I could get?
You're about to get it, ladies and gentlemen, and Andrew GOLDFARB, because that OG guy from Pixar and one of the dudes formerly of LucasArts,
Mark and Dave,
they popped up here for your enjoyment. Here they are, CounterSpy. Boom! There it is, Colin.
Yeah.
2 people at the table. That's how quick we do it. Everybody, give a round of applause. Mark and David are here. They're here to talk about CounterSpy.
Pat on the back.
Well done, yeah.
Good job.
So let's start things at the top of the most important thing I think possible. David.
Yep.
You live in my neighborhood. Our neighborhood.
That's right.
The sunset. I was walked to the train today. You came up. I'm like, oh, another adoring fan to talk to. And he's like, you're going to interview me today. I was like, oh, what's up? How you doing? This is weird now.
Yeah, that's funny. I had no idea when I went to the studio.
I was saying to Greg, I've seen you, and I would go, that guy looks familiar. And then I only clicked, I think, when we chatted, Colin, and realized you were in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that was kind of weird today. Literally on my way to work, not work here.
Yeah,
thinking,
literally
all
coming
right,
here to meet us to
get
talk.
myself psyched up, and it's like, oh no, there's Greg, and oh, he's walking over here, and oh, now he's right in front of me. I guess I better say hello. So
Then we talked about Rogue Legacy, so it all worked out.
Rogue Legacy is awesome, but I'm totally a noob at that game.
Yeah, we all are. Colin's the only man in the room, I think.
Yeah, I beat it. It was good. I want to do the New Game Plus thing and see how hard it gets. It's supposed to be very good.
But enough of that game.
Yeah.
Tell me about CounterSpy.
Well, who wants to go first?
You're warmed up.
Okay.
The train got you nice and loose for
All
this
right.
interview.
So CounterSpy, it's the first game from our studio, Dynamite. It's a side-scrolling action stealth game. It's set in the sort of 50s Cold War setting. It's coming out on all the PlayStation devices next Tuesday. This Tuesday, today.
Today, it's coming out today.
It's coming out today.
Time travel.
It's coming out right now.
Cross-buy?
Cross-buy, cross-save. Yes.
Cool, and it's also available on. It's going to be available on mobile, right, later on as well.
There
in case people
is
wanna play
a
it there.
mobile version, yeah,
Cool.
and it's intended to be kind of its own game. Like it has a lot of the same core gameplay, so less of a companion app. more of a game in its own right.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So when I came and visited you guys at your studio last week, first of all, the studio is an awesome space. You should see this place. The space is just awesome.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. And the bathrooms I was especially impressed with.
Thank you.
The bathrooms are very cool because one bathroom is
the heart of the
imperialist and
studio.
one bathroom is Soviet style.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
And so I guess like where I want to start is like what was the nugget of the idea for this game, and how did you guys kind of find each other? Because what I was so fascinated about talking to you guys, and we're going to do a piece later on, I think, after the game comes out. How did you guys find each other? Because there's a lot of experience from different places, even outside the games industry, to come together and make this game.
It's like an online dating service, really.
Looking for a dev.com?
Yeah, exactly.
So some of it's not too far from that, as it happens. There's four of us who formed the nucleus, who originally kind of really set out to start the company. Myself and John, we'd worked together at LucasArts. There's a guy, Mark, who John had known. He sort of brings a bit more of the business acumen, and he's like the least businessy business person we could find. He just got back from India and is like a surfer, so that's our business guy.
And a serious gamer, too.
Right, and a total gamer nerd, so that was important.
I like the idea of him just being a surfer.
Right.
Hey, man. What are you guys doing? Stop worrying about it. Ride the wave.
Right.
And then Mark, so the way that we found Mark was literally, we knew that we wanted to build a games company and make games that had really strong visuals, and I'm a huge Pixar fanboy, and I literally was like, okay, who do we need to sort of fill out that fourth chair, right? The guy that's going to lead the visual development. And I literally went onto LinkedIn and did a keyword search, Pixar art director. So it was kind of like online dating, except using LinkedIn. And then when Mark's name popped up, we kind of started communicating. Hey.
Well, the timing was perfect because I had just given notice at Pixar. I'd been there a very long time, great experience, but it was sort of time. It was time that I wanted some new growth
do
and
something
challenge,
different, right?
And
What's the last movie you worked on?
Monsters 2, I believe.
Were you in a documentary about Pixar?
I might have been.
All right, you look really familiar, and
Yeah.
I assumed I had met you in game development before,
Oh, okay,
but no,
maybe not.
I probably
Yeah.
watched you.
I was probably in the background, like walking in the hallway or something, behind the monkey on the scooter.
You're in the Incredibles. There's some
Okay.
Brad Bird meetings. I think you're in the extra footage.
my moment of fame. But anyway, I had told them I wanted to move on, and they were very supportive of that. And I gave notice and updated my LinkedIn resume for the first time in like 16 years. And then within, like, I feel like a few weeks, I get this email from David.
You were probably like, "What's LinkedIn?" Right? Like, 'cause
No,
you've been there
I
for
was
16
aware.
years.
Well, right, yeah, yeah. No, it was something that I definitely needed to dust off a lot of stuff. But it was just great timing, and I think in the way that you kind of, the kind of company you wanted to build, the kind of games you wanted to make, really spoke to me and my interests creatively. We shared a lot of the same passions, and we went through this sort of very kind of long courtship for a while. Pixar, even though I had given notice, they kept extending me for several months, and finally one of my supervisors was like, "Okay, we have to let you go so we can kind of do this on our own now." And then I was freed up to kind of consult with you guys in the beginning and joined you. What was it? Early 11?
It was totally like dating. I think that's a really accurate
It was.
metaphor.
We actually became friends first before we got into a serious relationship.
That's how the best marriages are started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we hope we have a a good foundation to build on.
Do you remember? So I remember there was a moment where Mark had been consulting for us, and I think you were getting approached by certainly companies bigger than our little nobody's heard
Company
of.
is
little
larger than
company.
3 people.
Yeah.
There were a few out there at the time.
But there was a moment, but we always were getting on, and we were sort of connecting so much creatively. And there was a moment where I said to Mark, like, this is that movie where there's all the hot girls out there that you're like totally enraptured with and falling for, and here's your best friend over here
with her
that's
glasses
like-
and her
with
ponytail.
Exactly. And you can't see right in front of you that this is the best thing that will happen to you. And I think
Yeah.
that was.
We had that moment where you took your glasses off and you let your hair down, and
That's right.
And I knew it. That was it.
So you guys get together. The 4 of you get together. You kind of fill out your team, I assume. The team's very small. I mean, it's got to be like what, a dozen
12,
people.
yeah.
Yep.
And this idea, I guess, of CounterSpy comes out. And I'm really intrigued by this. We were talking, history is like my favorite thing in the world, and you guys really are tuned into history, and this is a game that takes a lot from Cold War history. It is a Cold War game. So how did this specific idea come up? And was this an idea that you had before you even met each other, or was this something you came up with together?
So I think when Mark and I met, there was definitely that idea, that kernel of an idea that wanted to make something that kind of tapped into the espionage thrillers of the 50s and 60s, like just being a huge fan of like early Bond shows like Man from U.N.C.L.E. And I think that's where Mark and I really hit it off and could see how we could build something together. It's interesting. So the thematically where we went was sort of a real discovery process. Like I don't think we knew when we started out that we were going to set it in the Cold War and necessarily have a point of view about sort of what the Cold War's like, right? Which is, if you think about it, the Cold War is kind of this pretty crazy, dark time in history, and we're making a very fun, playful,
colorful game.
So it's like, well, how do you
reconcile?
Yeah,
those?
like how do you reconcile the two?
Yeah, and I think when I came on, like you had that core idea, and that's one of the things that sold me was just getting to do this sort of 50s, 60s era cool espionage game, right? And it touched on a lot of things I was really interested in. But there's a very wide sort of palette, yeah. Sorry, to work in. And so tonally, we didn't know quite what the tone was. Like originally, it was a little darker. It was a little more
gritty.
Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, or Man from Berlin, kind of, or not Man from Funeral in Berlin. And we wanted wanting it to be a playful game. We didn't want to take the sort of Austin Powers approach of doing a parody, where it's just really making fun of the genre. We wanted to do it in a way where we were respectful and earnest, but still a little lighthearted.
Sure.
So that was a process for us to kind of find those sort of common grounds. And I think Dr. Strangelove was a great one, where there was this sort of very, again, serious earnestness to the story, but it was a ridiculous story. And I think that kind of was like a first place we kind of found that sort of humorous touchstone, I guess, for that.
I mean, the thing, we talked about this, Colin, like the thing that we really wanted to poke fun at a bit was just that sort of, that ideological sort of what any two sides can be when you've got two ideological sides in opposition, and they're so like, yeah, we're right, we're right, so they're wrong, and it's something that this sort of fundamentalist idea, and it's something you see in religion, in politics. It's PlayStation versus Xbox. Like it feels like people always want to draw those battle lines, right? And like honestly, I feel like usually when you meet people across any divide, you find, well, you're cool, we're all cool, like you're just like us. You play Xbox, I play PlayStation, but that's okay.
Switch the A with the X, and it's the same thing.
Right. So I think for me that was like part of the meaning that we thought we could kind of wrap around the game. I think for us, it's important that we make games where there's sort of a meaning or there's a point underneath it, but at the same time, like not being super heavy-handed. So that's why when you play the game, you'll see a lot of the propaganda on the walls. Like that's a lot of the artwork that Mark did for the two sides, so you can kind of see, these two sides are sort of facing off against each other, but they're kind of the same,
right?
So that was, but again, like it's not like in your way and getting in the way of you running around ragdolling.
So how do
enemies.
you do that? It sounds easy when you say that, right? But you're making a video game where you run around and do crazy stuff, but you're trying to deliver a message, but you're not trying to beat people over the head with it, right?
Well, it works at a couple of levels. I mean, one, for us, really, it just it focuses us on what's meaningful to us about the game.
Yeah.
What's the thing where it kind of the point of view that we're engaging in, and that sort of informs a lot of the choices in the game. Some of it becomes a little more overt, some of it's very subtle, and ultimately what people take away from the game is up to them. But it allowed us to kind of filter sort of our creative choices. And so the posters, the propaganda posters, were a perfect way to give voice to that sort of idea. But again, not in an overt way. It's in the background. It's funny, hopefully, and it adds to the tone, the playful tone, a little bit of messaging there. But again, it's just in the background. You run by it.
Sure.
It's.
I mean, I think of like good science fiction, right? Like awesome science fiction whether it's early Star Trek or anything. It's like it's great entertainment. You get wrapped up in the characters and the world, but it can also be used to explore things that might not otherwise.
The car ride home, you have that way. Like, wait a second, that's kind of like this.
Oh, did Kirk really kiss that green alien, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the power of great entertainment, is like it has the ability to entertain you, but you also walk away with something.
Yeah.
It's funny you have that Star Trek example. I just thought of that episode of the guys that are half black and half white fighting the guys that are half white and half black.
Right.
That's basically our game.
Oh, so you finally admit it's a ripoff.
Exactly.
Thanks.
It was an unconscious ripoff.
If you're going to rip off, copy the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
what I enjoy so much about the game when I came to your studio and we talked about it, and I got to really kind of sit down and play it for a long time and learn more about it was you don't identify the United States or the Soviet Union. It's the socialists and the imperialists, and and I love the idea of the game that you're not taking either side, that you're actually trying to sabotage both of them.
Right.
And so I guess the story takes place that they're both trying to launch nukes at the moon, right? To be the first one to launch nukes, and you're trying to find enough information on both of them by infiltrating their bases to sabotage their nuclear programs. So that's what the game is about, and I love that idea. Was there any sort of, you're making the game can be played anywhere, but you're a Western studio making a Western game. Was there some sort of, did you feel the impetus at any time to make a game that was more pro-US or more that took toward more of the US side?
I can speak to that. It was very tricky subject matter because on one hand, it's very easy to vilify the Russians, or the other side, and it's hard to be aggressive towards your own side. The game, we wanted it to be fundamentally about two fundamentalist sides, and the Cold War is sort of an illustration of that. And so we wanted to keep the framework, we wanted to keep it recognizable, but I didn't want it to be literally about the Soviets in the US. I didn't want it to be a historical game. So there was a challenge in sort of abstracting them enough. Originally in the visual development, I had completely different colors and flags and things, but then no one knew what either side was, and you lost that sort of historical framework. So we had to dial it back. But it was very important to keep it, you're evoking the historical, combatants, but again, it's not a direct representation of them. And I also felt really sensitive to the fact that, wow, I can go and invade a U.S. base and shoot my grandfather, or something. And I didn't like that idea,
paradox.
too. I know, exactly. So, again, it's like I hope we struck a right balance between abstracting it enough and you understanding it's sort of a playful game. It's satirical, and it makes it a little easier to kind of just play the game.
The idea of imperialists and socialists as well, it was kind of came down to it's the classic insults that one side always throws at the other.
Right.
You always hear the US being accused of you're the imperialists, and it's like, socialist is a bad word, and it's the way that these labels get attached and thrown at people that kind of depersonalizes. So we kind of latched onto that as being kind of who we wanted to label them as.
Counter is kind of the lens. It's almost like looking through the lens of today and looking back and reflecting on it and sort of seeing, again, seeing kind of the sort of tragic irony of that, conflict.
So just to also, because this is getting
a little deep.
We're getting serious here too. But from the fun side, we love Bond. We love all those old espionage movies. And so in Bond, you've got Spectre, right? Like Spectre, the evil, shadowy organization. And we didn't want to also just make our own version of Bond. We thought, what if we put a twist on it? Like they're viewed as the shadowy organization by the sort of nations, but you're on the inside. You see yourself as the good guys.
You're the hero, yeah.
Right, and so it's like flipping it so that the superpowers are the supervillains, right?
Yeah.
And so once we kind of tapped into that, and then we did feel obviously like let's not call them US and Soviet as well.
All right, so right now, Colin, there's a guy in Kansas driving a tractor to listen to Podcast Beyond.
Yeah,
He's enjoying the highfalutin talk. But what is the moment-to-moment gameplay
Right.
of CounterSpy? We haven't touched on that. I know you run, and I know there's posters in the back.
Yeah.
And then there's all this stuff piled on
All
top.
right.
Yeah, good.
So think about your love for early kind of arcade action style side scrollers, right?
Okay.
Like we have a love for that genre. We wanted to make something that had all the sort of trappings of those fun, easy to pick up and play, run and gun games. At the same time, bringing in stealth and have stealth be a portion of it. So this is not a pure stealth game. It's not a game where you go into the room and if you get spotted, you're like, oh no, I have to restart.
Right.
But there's definite advantages to playing stealthy, avoiding detection. You can sneak up behind guys, take them out. Stealth headshot guys, build up combos that kind of add to points. So again, like there's a very arcadey feel to it. But that also is how you earn, one of the ways you can earn money, and that's how you can buy weapons. But there's this interesting thing that we brought to it that we feel is sort of kind of makes it unique or makes it its own thing, which is like you're playing it in a classic side scroller. You're running around trying to avoid detection. When you see a cover point, you can pop into cover. And then when you pop into cover, the perspective shifts around. And now you have more of a cinematic 3D combat view, more like you would see in a full 3D game.
Oh, okay.
So there's this kind of unique mix between like the 2D for navigation, navigating the world, and then when you get into something where there's more of a combat encounter, or if you just want to hide, pop out and take a guy out silently, like we've got this cover camera.
Awesome.
And you know the style and the gameplay, it all evolved out of, you know, we were a very small team. You know, there were 4 of us, you know, 3 developers and Mark keeping the lights on for us. And we knew we were going to have a small team. We weren't going to have a lot of resources, and so we needed to kind of constrain ourselves and also find a foundation from which there was a common experience we liked. And side-scrolling games, you know, was sort of kind of a good starting point, and wanting to build kind of a simple foundation. But then we wanted to really implement well on that, and really where we can have a high bar. So it is, you know, foundationally a very just a nice, you know, kind of pure, simple arcade game with you know. But we just wanted it to be, you know, bringing in the cover camera, bringing in the 3D nature, and then bringing in the personality and the voice was sort of our way of sort of being able to scale up on something very, again, sort of playing to our strengths and
a few other things about the game. So the levels are put together using sort of procedural systems. So rooms get stitched together in different orders. Enemies are in different places. Stuff that you find.
So it's different every time you play.
So we try to make it
endless
so,
replay. How long is this game? Endless. That's what
Right.
you say at the bullet point.
Let's see you finish this game.
So
Platinum this, Colin.
what else? There is the weapons in the game. So you collect blueprints in the game that you complete to unlock new weapons. And some of the weapons, you've got your kind of traditional, like the diplomatic pistol, which is the silencer. But then you've got a bunch of more crazier weapons you can unlock later. Like one of my favorites is the dart persuader, where if you shoot a soldier with that, he'll kind of and turn around and
Go
just
berserk
start
and just
going
mow everyone
berserk,
down.
attacking his allies. They'll start shooting him, so you can create little firefights. And so again, I think just trying to have fun with it and trying to make sure. I feel like the core gameplay is sort of matches the irreverent tone of the world as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, a few of the things that, you know, gameplay-wise stood out to me when I sat down with you guys to play was, you know, one of the things I really like to do, even though I messed it up once, was you can shake down the officers that you meet. And I actually only shot one of them. But if you just aim at the officers, they'll actually surrender. And this lowers your DEF CON score. Like the DEF CON threat level basically indicates like how tense things are, and you can lower it by making officers surrender to you, which is kind of cool. The gunplay was really fluid. It's a fun game, and I think people are going to enjoy it. I'm really looking forward, especially to play it on Vita. I played it on PS4 at the studio.
System's got no legs. Vita's the future.
Yeah, for sure. Dynamite's CounterSpy should be out now by the time people are listening to it. Vita, PS3, PS4, buy one, get them all. Cross-play, cross-save. And there's those iOS and Android, I guess, type games or whatever. Not quite the same, not quite different if you want to play those as well. And that'll be pretty cool. And then I'm gonna go see you guys in a few weeks, and we'll talk again,
That'd be great.
and we'll do something a little meatier, a deeper dive on the studio, because this is an interesting studio. People usually like my history pieces about Sucker Punch, which I'm working on now, or Naughty Dog, or Santa Monica, or San Diego Bend. But I want to do this studio about a story about a new studio and how they found each other, because I think that's the more
You're
interesting.
doing the
story.
prehistory.
Yes, the history before the history.
Right.
Episode 1.
Yes.
All right. Well, guys, give me a Beyond before you go.
Beyond. Oh, wow. That actually did add a lot. That was really interesting.
Did it look like I was done writing down the number? Did it look like I wanted you to start talking yet? You just don't even remember how this show works, do you? You're a piece of work. GOLDFARB. I started having a stroke there.
Your nose is bleeding.
I can't jump around times like this.
The CounterSpy thing is in there, and then we keep this part of the show for no reason afterwards.
Or keeping this. This is the rest of the thing here now.
If you were to stroke, I feel like we would probably not edit that.
I would demand it say in the show.
You're from
right
the
now,
hospital bed.
If anything bad ever happens to me on Podcast Beyond, I demand that it is left into the show.
But if you have a stroke, let's say you die of a stroke right now.
Yeah.
We're not going to go back and edit your death into
Think of the
video
views.
segment.
Think of the
Oh,
downloads.
that's true.
You got to share
The
it.
clicks.
They'd be grieving.
Yeah.
You'd have a somber section before it telling everybody, like, this is a graphic episode. We lost Greg. We're going to let you listen as it happens. And then it's like, I go down, right? And then it's like the 6 hours of this just running while you guys are dealing with it. And then you come back like, oh, God, it's been recording the whole time.
And we're still editing. People are screaming because you're on the ground dead, and we have to edit each curse out, like, one by one.
Oh, my death's so funny. Colin.
Yeah.
Jack writes in with a question I think you can answer. He says, Beyond.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, Colin, the ever-rotating third chair. My question is for Colin. I'm about to fly from Melbourne, Australia to Hawaii for a holiday, and I need something to play on my Vita for the 10-hour plane ride there and back. I'm tossing up. I guess that's a phrase in Australia. I am tossing up between PS1 classics, Wild Arms, and Vagrant Story. Which one would you recommend?
Both games are great. Wild Arms is one of the best games of all time. So I would go with Wild Arms. There you go.
Spelunky.
Persona, I don't know. Why? Why Wild Arms over Vagrant Story?
Wild Arms is an exceptional story-driven, emotional JRPG. I think that the only reason that people don't appreciate it the way they should is because it came out 6 months before Final Fantasy VII, so it was buried.
It's like one of those weird things where I think Wild Arms is probably as strong as that Golden Age SNES JRPG era, but it's not included in it, obviously, because it's on PS1. But I think, man, that game is probably pretty up there with Chrono Trigger and, a lot of the kind of Final Fantasy VI and all the greats that people talk about.
Absolutely. It's an exceptional game. Vagrant Story is great, but Wild Arms is one of the greats.
All right. Colin, last week, we had a rushed Podcast Beyond. Then we went to Sony and played a bunch of games that they had talked about and shown at the Gamescom thing. We have a question here from Thomas about one of them. Beyond. To Greg, Colin, whoever else is in the rotating third chair, I recently watched some of the Until Dawn gameplay IGN put up, and it looks great. I was wondering, though, if the game changes based on the player. In the beginning of the game, it had the player take a survey about themselves, asking questions as, is horror all about gore or suspense? Do you guys think these questions will impact the game greatly, or just a few choice scripted scenes? Thanks, Thomas. I'm in love with Until Dawn, first off. It's one of those things, we played it forever ago, 2 years ago with the move, and I was like, whatever.
That was Gamescom 2012? Mm-hmm.
This seems like it's going to be stupid. And not dumb, but just not great, right? This one, after playing it, I still haven't played PT, the playable teaser for Kojima's game, right? Because it was like, I played a horror game, this was great, and then I came home and then there's another horror game. I'm like, this isn't something I need to be playing every day. I think, the whole point of the game is player choice and having things change. And in the game, it's like, you choose if you go one way or the other, then a little butterfly icon pops up letting you know that you've made a major choice and now the game's going to branch a different way.
And Marty was talking on GameScoop about how, like, everyone can live, everyone can die. Like,
right.
There are, like, this very wide set of circumstances that
Sure,
can
it's a
happen,
horror movie with, like, the choices and, like, all the awesome endings of Heavy Rain, except there's going to be way more, right?
That's really cool.
And I don't even know how you're going to go back to replay it, because Heavy Rain, of course, had, like, one main section that broke apart, that then that's how you got all the endings, and there was, like, 34 of those endings.
That was really complicated to do it. I did it. I got a platinum in that game.
So did I.
But it was you had to start from a certain point, and then you could never go behind that point ever again.
Sure.
You had to do it in order.
Right.
So it was obnoxious.
Yeah. So I don't know. This one's going to be worse, I'm sure. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then
We'll
back
see.
to this question, though, about, like, the survey. I didn't ask the woman who was giving the demos there about that specific thing. I imagine it does, if it's how it's going to tailor the experience, if it's about suspense or if it's about gore. Because I said suspense, because I like the grindhousey movies nowadays, like the basically torture porn. Don't do anything for me. I went that way, and that had people popping up in my face trying to scare me and different things, and it wasn't at any point somebody's guts falling out. Now, granted, we had one tailored demo, so who knows in the end how it is, but I don't see why they're asking these questions if it's not going to matter.
Yeah. We'll see. Excited about it.
Colin, I got a worst PlayStation Network name of the week for you. You
Awesome.
ready? This one comes from Charles Witt. Jason Charles Witt. He writes in and says, Beyond.
Beyond.
Greg Colin in the chair of perpetual motion. In college, I was a member of many organizations that allowed me to have a lot of fun in college. As a junior at San Diego State University, me and a few of my friends decided it was time to bring back the all-male R&B group and perform on our campus. We called ourselves Hot Fudge Sunday. And we all had ice cream themed nicknames. Me as Caramel Drop, whatever your preference is. And my friends as DJ Spoons, Two Scoops, and Mr. Cream. We were good. Damn good. Around this time, I purchased my first Sony console, the PlayStation 3, and created my PlayStation name not knowing that it would be forever. My PSN name is the name of our first single, and they're one and the same, The Chocolate Drizz. The Chocolate Drizz. Our song was in the Chocolate Drizz, but I reached the limit of characters. He's spelling it the Chocolate Drizzle. But I reached the limit on characters, and hopefully not forever would be the Chocolate Drizz. No one accepts friend requests from the Chocolate Drizz, and the Drizz is often mistaken for, you guessed it, jizz. The one redeeming quality about this name is when I play Call of Duty, and you hear gamers asking who killed them, and it says, the Chocolate Drizz, and I reply, the Drizzle never dies. Which is, in fact, the name of our one and only album. Keep up the good work. I love the show. That's a pretty awesome name.
Yep.
It's not even a terrible name.
Yep.
People don't think about it. They take it for granted that they got great
Shuhei,
awesome
let
names.
us change our names.
It continues.
Let us change our names.
Isn't Scott? I
Chocolate
think
Drizz.
Scott is still stuck with an IGN name, even though he's not here anymore.
That's how it works.
I mean, I have an IGN name. I don't mind that at all. I mean, I'll
But
always,
you still work here.
yeah, no, but I
Yeah.
mean, even if I were to leave in the future and still have
Yeah.
that name, that's fine. That doesn't
Yeah.
bother me. It's just people need to have the option to change their names.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Yep. When Shuhei changes his last name to PlayStation, he'll understand how important it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of Podcast Beyond. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Remember, Podcast Beyond is the internet's #1 PlayStation podcast. It posts every Tuesday as an MP3 on IGN.com and your favorite podcast service of choice. Then, each and every Wednesday, we put up the video on IGN.com, YouTube.com/IGN, and the IGN PlayStation 4 app. It's totally free, Colin. You'd be stupid not to download it.
Your faces are on there.
Yeah,
Whenever I
it's-
turn on my PS4, I'm like, hey, I know them.
Look at these idiots.
I just kiss my screen and just gingerly
thank
stroke
you.
the TV.
Remember, of course, IGN.com keeps the lights on. Go there, read the articles, watch the videos, sign up for Prime, do some stuff with the wikis. Yeah, we got the wikis there. Jared, of course, wanted to come in and thank you for all the support you guys have given him.
Edit that Battleborn wiki.
Good job. I love the grin after you say it, like you slid it in.
And pre-order now.
You son of a bee. Keep up with us all on Twitter. IGN is IGN. I'm Game Over Greggy. Colin is No Taxation. Andrew Goldfarb is Garfep.
Wow.
Nailed it. I've been practicing in the mirror.
Oh, we
once you
can't
said
even
you're
say what
coming.
it stands for anymore. That's sad.
Greg always regrets fudging elderly people.
The Chocolate Drizz.
Chocolate Drizz.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.